Where were you when you learned that President John F. Kennedy was shot?
Yeah, I was at work. I come over to the intercom. It said he was assassinated, and they mentioned it right over the intercom at work, and everybody just kind of froze, Yeah, because I remember just as plain as day. That was a big thing. It just you didn't believe it. You're just shocked. You just stood there and looked at one another because he was really a popular man. And young. And then when it happened, it just you didn't. I guess you didn't want to believe it. A few years before that, he came through Grand Rapids on a train. The train track went by the shop, and we all were saying he's supposed to come through, and we seen the train go by, but he wasn't out on the back of the car or anything. He just went right by, and that always was impressive too. He came in Grand Rapids, and he rode the train in, and we seen it. He was just kind of like a Camelot figure, where he was young and everybody liked the guy, and he had a young family, and he was really charismatic. He was a good talker, and he was good. You liked the guy when he talked.
Yeah. Do you think he had a good impact on America?
Oh, I do. I really do. I do think he did have. It was just even though he's assassinated, whether that made a big difference or not, the way people looked at it, but I think he did make a good. He seemed to brought people together. They all wanted to listen to him. He was that type of a president. He made you feel like everybody, felt good about it. He had a standoff with Russia over Cuba. Yeah, the Cuban Missile Crisis. That was a big thing at the time. He gave Khrushchev an ultimatum, don't bring him across and give him Cuba, the missile. And he seemed to won that. Then he had a bad deal too, because somehow they invaded Cuba, the Bay of Pigs, and that it backfired on him. But it's remarkable what the civil rights, you think about it. Back then, I remember when they weren't allowed on the buses unless they sat in the back, and they weren't allowed to drink out of the same drinking fountain.
Oh,
they
yeah.
had their own drinking fountain in town and stuff. And I remember, how that would come forefront. And it was real political. Back then was, if you were into it too much, they didn't want to get too much because it was affected politically, You wouldn't think a civil war that was over, in the 1860s. Didn't settle it, Terrible. They never agreed with it, even though they had freed the slaves. They may have been free, but they weren't allowed in certain areas, Oh yeah, I can remember some of the riots. I remember going to a ball game in a bus, and the riots were on right then. Grand Rapids had an awful race riot.
What were your thoughts on the Vietnam War?
At the time, I thought they should have helped him out. They went over there and helped him out, helped the president at all or whoever was running the country. And I remember that, and they got too far into it, And toward the end, when it kept getting worse and worse and worse, I had two brothers in that war, and the country turned against the war. And I remember my brother telling, when they come across the boat, when they got out of the war, their term was up. They come over here, and they were told to change their clothes into civilian clothes, not to get off the ship with a uniform, because the country wasn't treating the soldiers right. So that's how much the whole country turned against him.